how did you resolve that conflict in terms of going to the other side? Because that's something that I've heard of here as well in Canada. I mean, similar to Germany, there's a very, correct me if I'm wrong, there's a very, there's a public sector of version of healthcare, and that doesn't exactly line up with the startup-y world. So how did you, I guess, bridge that gap with those who voice that concern?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I think I went through several phases. In the beginning, I took them very seriously and I doubted myself. Then I started to realize, okay, it's just a different point of view, and I was very accepting of it. And then I reached a point where I was extremely frustrated by my medical colleagues. And one example is I assume it's similar in everywhere, but even if you do a simple study with an app that you want to test on patients. So in our case, we had this idea that if somebody gets a first diagnosis of cancer, knowing that they remember really, really little of this first conversation because they're too stressed out, we wanted to give them an app that really gives them personalized information about their condition, what happens next, what they can do, and so on and so on. So they don't have to go to Google and get confused and scared. But this personalization would happen thanks to the input that the doctor gives to this app. And it would be the oncologist that has been talking to the patient, right? So in my view, I was augmenting the doctors and helping them to have better educated patients. Right? And with that and all full confidence, I walked to the ethics committee hearing where I had to present the case. And people were extremely aggressive towards me. There were like a series of doctors, part of this committee, and then one patient representative who was neutral. And so I said, oh, hello, good evening. They said, just sit down. Okay. So I thought, what's going on here? Like I was in court or something, right? So I sit there and then they asked me a couple of questions and it's pretty tense in the tone and so on. And then after a while I said, yeah, so what's going on here? And then one guy said, the psychiatrist, he says, okay, I mean, I don't want to take this too far, but since this is an ethics committee, I might as well tell you that I think it's highly unethical what you're doing here. I'm like, okay, so why is that? And he said, well, don't take us for stupid. We all know what's going on here. And can you help me? Because I'm not seeing it. And he said, well, you're trying to get rid of doctors. And I said, oh, now, I think all of us in this room have treated cancer patients. And I think all of us know how stressed out they are. And all of us have read the studies, how much people actually remember from the very first conversation of breaking the bad news of somebody having cancer. And it's at best if they remember your gender as a doctor, that's already great. So, also, if you have read the application, then you might have seen that we can only tailor it depending on the information we get from the doctors. So I don't see how I can make them redundant. And he said, oh yeah, I think you should just stop taking us for fools, right? And then I said, okay, listen, since we're talking frankly here, on my view, there are only two ways this can go. Either us doctors, we keep in our little world, in our little ivory tower, and we judge everybody who's trying to bring in innovation. But then what's going to happen is that, and I'm sorry for the American and Chinese listeners, but I had to play that card. I said, you will have all the big GAFAs from the US and you will have all the big corporates from China with different legal and ethical and cultural systems, developing technologies that will be so advanced that people here will demand them. But then we will have to play by their rules and we won't have it according to our own ethics, and your committee will not mean anything to them. The other option is that instead of being so judgmental, we start to have active conversations with these innovators and we help them make sure that things are evidence-based and in line with what we think is good medical practice. But I'm telling you that the option that you're driving here right now is not going to have very strong success. And so I'm here to make sure that we build bridges and that we create meaningful innovations together. So please help me with that. The thing went through in the end of the day, but I thought, what is this conversation I'm having, right? And that's where I end up being very frustrated. So there has been a transition in my thinking too, right?
Yeah. Jeez, that just hearing that story was like absolutely shocking. Hearing it like being frankly spoken like that, and I can't imagine how it must have felt to deal with that and to continue to deal with that day in and day out.